Hello folks, for pretty much the whole time I've been doing Mythic Plus, which goes all the way back to BFA Season 3, the one thing that has caused the most discussion and upset in the community is the thorny issue of abandoning Mythic Plus keys. This has always been more of an issue in PUG keys. Generally, organised guild and friend groups, if a key is abandoned, it's by group agreement, whereas in PUGs, it's not super unusual for one person to quit without saying anything. Now, in all fairness, there are some times when keys are obviously not going to go anywhere. I'm personally someone who does not quit keys, but I will admit that there have been occasions where after someone else has quit a key, my reaction has been more relief than anger. That all said, like most folks, I've also had that experience of someone quitting a still perfectly viable key, or quitting the key on the final boss after spending 45 minutes in there when you just want that last slot in the vault to be filled. So there's no doubt that this is a very major issue for a lot of players. And while I've never experienced it myself, I have seen those social media screenshots where people have put their key in only for someone to post a "haha, I'm breaking your key" or words to that effect, and then insta-quit. Part of the reason for these issues is that this has been something that for the most part has seemed to go without any consequences for the offenders, at least in the perceptions of the community. But this week it appears that this is beginning to change, with the announcement from Blizzard that they have started applying account sanctions to players who have quit, in their words, a great many in-progress keys without regard for the experience of other players. Now, Blizzard did not expand on the thresholds of what they consider to be a great many. Obviously, doing so would just result in folks gaming the limit, but I've taken a look over the forums and social media and I'm seeing very few complaints from players about being suspended, something that is usually the case during major ban waves. This does make me think that the thresholds are very high indeed, and most players will likely have nothing to fear from this. There is no doubt that there are bad actors out there, or just plain selfish people, and enforcing some degree of standards is, in my view, very overdue and also very welcome. But at the same time, I'm also quite disappointed that Blizzard are not accompanying this announcement with some more information about what they are doing to address the issues of toxicity within Mythic Plus. Research on toxicity in gaming has in the past found that while there are indeed trolls and bad actors out there, most cases of toxicity are one-off events by perfectly decent people who are just acting out in response to frustration, often at in-game issues. What this means is that toxicity is as much a game design issue as it is a social issue, and while taking action against players is necessary at times, if that's the only thing being done by developers, it risks becoming a political smokescreen which allows the developers to avoid taking responsibility for the root causes of that toxicity that arises from their designs. And in Mythic Plus, you do not have to look very far for things that can frustrate players a lot. I've spoken before about the way that the Challenger's Peril Affix's death penalty can actively encourage quitting as a response to deaths, and it is very telling that this announcement for Blizzard is coming in the first season that has that affix, but it's not the only issue. In my opinion, the penalty for missing a timer in Mythic Plus is currently far too severe. Not only do you get your key depleted, possibly multiple times, but the amount of crest is cut from 12 down to 5. What that means, of course, is that for healers or tanks who can get very fast invites to other groups, it's hugely more efficient to quit a key that they are not confident of timing and try another one than it is to grind it out for 45 minutes to an hour. Now, to be clear, I am not justifying that behaviour, but when it comes to the difference between having to spend 6 hours or 9 hours to cap out your crests, that's a pretty major incentive to act in that fashion, and that incentive is designed into the game by the developers. Now, of course, there should be a penalty for missing a timer, but in my experience, just missing that timer feels bad enough no matter what, and the key holder still loses out in getting a better key. So there always are penalties to missing the timer no matter what. What I'd personally like to see would be keys having some number of lives. Basically, a number of depletes in a row before it would start to go down. For example, a 7 or below could have 5 lives, and that could be reduced by 1 life for every level above 7, meaning it would reach 0 for a 12, where I do think the extra competitive pressures justify a higher penalty. I would also like to see the reduction in crests for mission a timer to be staged depending on how much over the timer you go. Up to 1 minute, for example, could be free, or in other words, you still get your 12 crests, and then it could lose 1 crest per minute, or maybe 1 every 30 seconds until you get down to the 5, which would be the absolute minimum number of crests you get. Now, obviously, there are other things that you could do instead. This is just a couple of examples to show that this is a problem that is well within the developer's power to address. Anyways, what do you think Blizzard should be doing to try and address the root causes of the issues that happen in Mythic Plus PUGs? Do you think a solo queue system with a deserters debuff could help, for example? Let me know in the comments down below. The other main news for the competitive end of the game is that with the closing of the Mythic Raid Hall of Fame this week, along came a fairly huge set of class and spec tuning changes. I'm not a class theory crafter, so I'm not going to be going into those in any depth, but the majority of the changes have been buffed with 2 very major exceptions, Protection Paladin and Shaman, both of whom got some fairly sizable damage nerfs. These 2 classes have become major outliers, specifically in higher end content, so this is probably justified. The main potential concern is that with these classes having dominated the Mythic Plus 0.1% title race, the nerfs could result in a stalling of progress for the race, effectively locking in the current contenders. Obviously, only time will tell in that front, but in the past, things like this have forced Blizzard to reduce the key scaling to restart the race progress, so that may well be something to watch in the coming weeks, especially in a season where there have been a lot of complaints from the community about the difficulty gaps between keys, making progress harder than normal. This video is releasing on the last day of November, which means that tomorrow and Sunday we get a brand new trading post. And as always, Blizzard have shared a preview, albeit this time it's one that does not include everything that is to come. So I am wondering if there's a little bit of a surprise in store. For mount collectors, the highlight is the Twilight Sky Prowler, a recolor of the Flying Fox mount. This mount was previously part of a cash shop bundle, and so offers an opportunity for mount collectors who do not want to buy cash mounts to get the mount. The monthly reward is a purple Murloc onesie, itself a recolor of the green one that was also in the shop. Now this isn't my personal cup of tea, but I do know that a lot of players, especially in roleplay, greatly appreciate more casual civilian options for their characters. As this is December, there is a distinctly holiday theme to some of the other items, including this very festive mace. Overall, this is probably going to be a saving month for me, but despite that, I do think it's quite an interesting offering, and it feels a bit more of a return to form for the trading post after some fairly meh months over the summer period this year. Another piece of good news is the announcement of 500's bonus tender in celebration of the 2nd anniversary of the trading post, which is this coming February. This announcement was a bit unclear, and it's not 100% certain if they meant that the bonus is this month or if the bonus is going to be in February. My own personal guess though is that they did mean this month, which makes me think that this bonus is likely to be a regular feature through to February. Most likely this is going to use the same mechanic as November, where the trading post activity bar got extended beyond the usual monthly reward. I personally think that this increased tender is a great move, and I would prefer to see it become a permanent feature. If you're a big mint collector, achievement hunter, or completionist, you've probably heard the term Felcycle by now, which is shorthand for a new mount, Incognito the Indecipherable Felcycle. This is a new secret mount, and if you're unfamiliar with secret mounts, from time to time over the years, Blizzard have added a large-scale hidden puzzle in the game, which when solved awards some cool things. Previous examples included the Lucid Nightmare and Hivemind mount. This time around, the secret is not so secret, with a direct introductory questline from the Anniversary Guest Relations puzzle event, and instead it's a very extensive series of puzzles based in the Karazhan Catacombs. It appears that the main part consists of 12 puzzles, and as of the time of writing this, 8 of those puzzles have been solved, and work is underway on the 9th, which has proven to be a bit of a wall for the community. The process of getting here has not been plain sailing though. As is often the case with the World of Warcraft community, we like to complain a lot. The key complaint this time around has been the inclusion of pet battles in a couple of the secrets. Now, pet battling in World of Warcraft is very much an acquired taste. There's an entire community built up around it, but on the other hand, I know a ton of players who have ignored the feature entirely. The problem this creates, of course, is if you suddenly out of the blue have to pet battle, not only do you have to do that content, you somehow have to find the pets, figure out how leveling them up works, and how the overall pet battling system works. And all the time you're doing that, the folks that you have been playing along with on the secret are now racing ahead and leaving you behind. And that creates feelings of unfairness and, of course, frustration. Now, of course, the folks racing ahead have previously put all of that work in, and there's nothing wrong with getting rewarded for it. But human emotions are not always rational, and unreasonable feelings are still very real. For me, the main issue was a lack of any advanced warning that the event would require something like pet battling. Once you're many hours in and you hit something that might have, if you had known up front, made you decide that the event was not for you, well, that's the time that the sunk cost fallacy kicks in. Things like this, of course, are usually well-meaning attempts by the developers to encourage people to give other game modes a try. But for every player who did try it out and has decided they want to do more pet battles, I will bet there are 10 who pushed through and just ended up resenting the system even more, even if they might have liked it if they had been given a better introduction to it. That all said, as someone whose only brushes with pet battles was getting the Falcycle mounts or the pet battle dungeon portals, the battle wasn't super hard to do, and I do have a quick tip for you. If, like me, you've collected up a bunch of polished pet charms from all of those Paragon bags that are sitting in your bank doing nothing, you can spend those at any pet battle vendor. I personally use the one in the Legion Dalaran pet shop to buy ultimate pet training stones, which instantly level a pet to level 25. So it's actually possible to completely skip the pet leveling process if it's not your thing. Sadly, this understandable frustration about the event boiled over, and the community response in some cases did cross the line from providing feedback to targeting the developer of the secret. And targeting developers is never okay. Not only is taking out anger on someone who at the end of the day is just doing their job completely unacceptable, it also makes it much harder for us as a community to get our feedback heard by Blizzard. Not to mention being able to have nice things like developers that are willing to engage with the community directly, as has been happening with this secret. And my ask to all of you is that if you're not confident in your ability to self-regulate and at least be respectful, if not constructive in your feedback, then please just don't. It ultimately makes the game worse for everyone by drowning out genuine feedback at best, and at worst causing the dev team to close down and ultimately react stubbornly when things go wrong. Despite this hiccup, overall I have been really enjoying the event. It's been great to have a reason to go out and visit some of the older parts of Azeroth and see little crowds of other players, making the world feel populated in a way that is sadly all too rare in modern World of Warcraft outside of the first few weeks of an expansion or a major patch launch. And many of the puzzles are offering novel and fun ways to interact with the game. I'll put a link down below to both the current Wowhead guide for the secret and the guide to the easiest pets to get and a strategy to win the secret battle. Staying on the more casual end of the game, and the weekly Pinnacle chest quest this week was one of those that asked you to collect Titan discs and get a new lore reveal. This one, I understand, is the last of the series. This series has taken the form of a kinda diary kept by the Titan Keeper Arcadis, and has been slowly leading us to the discovery that the Titans' goals for Azeroth may not be as wholesome as we have been led to believe for all of these years. This week's review was particularly on point, with the discovery that the Earthen's memory issues were imposed upon them by the Titans in order to quell an effective rebellion that was likely caused by Azeroth's attempts to escape her Titan shackles. Where this will go in future remains to be seen, but I will not be super surprised if we don't end up facing at least some of the Titans as raid bosses in a future expansion. And finally, it's time to take a look at the updates from this week's PTR build. It's already been very well announced that the Plunderstorm is coming back in patch 11.07, and dates had already been data mined from the PTR for the event, but this week it appears that those dates have been updated to start a little bit earlier, now running from January the 14th to the 18th. Now obviously, because it's PTR, this could change again, but with the patch due to launch in just a couple of weeks from now, that's looking less and less likely. With patch 11.07 releasing on December 17th, and Blizzard seemingly sticking to their 8-week patch release cycle, counting 8 weeks forward from December the 17th takes us to February the 11th, which, with patch 11.10 being the next major seasonal patch, would probably have Season 2 of The War Within launching on February the 18th, which does seem to line up well, albeit there's still a decent chance that Blizzard would instead want the patch to drop as Plunderstorm ends, so I don't rule out these dates being a week later. What this means is that my own personal bet is that we can expect to see patch 11.10 release in either the 11th or 18th of February, with the new season starting in either the 18th or the 25th. Blizzard have said in interviews to expect 11.10 on the PTR before the Christmas holiday season. I personally think that they might want to avoid launching the PTR the same week as the 11.07 patch on the 17th of December, and with the following week being Christmas Eve, that does mean that there's a fairly decent chance we will see the PTR launching before the next patch, perhaps as soon as this coming week. Now, I'd be super interested to hear your thoughts about the current season. Are you done with it and counting the days till Season 2 starts? Or are you more hyped up for the Siren's Isle zone in 11.07? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video and want to support my channel, the best way to do that is by subscribing. But do also hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever a new video goes live. I've loads more interesting content to come real soon. And also do please give it a thumbs up down below to let both me and YouTube know that I'm on the right track with these news updates. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.